Hello and welcome to a wonderful webinar that ICB is running with Sage and HMRC. Today we're going to be discussing MTD for VAT. Some will say it's probably come too soon, some will say they can't believe it's taken so long. But how are you faring, and how is the wider business community handling MTD for VAT? We've got a very important deadline looming on the 7th of August. So we're going to be helping us all get through to the end point there with that deadline. And I'm very pleased that we've got two experts who are going to help us today. We've got our Personality of the Year, Julia Wedgwood from Sage. Good morning, Julia.
Good morning, Amy, and good morning, everyone from ICB.
You definitely know a thing or two about MTD. And we also have Verna. She is not pictured, but she is here, and she is also another expert in MTD. Good morning, Verna.
Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Julia. And thank you, everyone else, for dialing in. Hate being called an expert, though, Amy. Thanks for that.
Sorry. You are officially Head of Stakeholder Engagement for MTD, is that right?
Well, yes, yes.
But you do know a thing or two about MTD, don't you?
I'd like to think so, yes.
If anyone who's got trouble setting up their ASA or linking their clients or doing the actual VAT return, we are going to help to solve those issues today. So without further ado, take it away, Julia.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for making the time on this lovely sunny day. I'm joined, as Amy said, I'm joined by Verna. Verna and myself have been out on roadshows for the last 4 weeks, talking about, getting ready for the final preparations around MTD. So we will take you today through, sorry, I'll just make sure my mouse, the story so far from both a HMRC and a Sage perspective, preparations for the deadline, talk about spreadsheet clients, etc. So before that, I'm going to now hand over to Verna, who will give you an update from a HMRC perspective, where we are with where HMRC are in their preparations.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Julia, and thank you, everybody, for listening in. So as Julia says, what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about where HMRC are up to with making tax digital for VAT at the moment. But obviously, if you want to ask me any kind of questions, type your questions into the chat box and I will try and get around to answering them towards the end of this presentation. So as Julia and Amy says, my name is Verna Gellvear and I work for HMRC. I work on the customer readiness and external stakeholder team, and I'm based in the team that is based in Liverpool. My background to HMRC is that I used to be a VAT inspector, so I do know about VAT, and obviously I also know about making tax digital for businesses. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about where we are with where HMRC are up to with MTD for VAT. So can you move on for me, Julia? So at the moment, HMRC have had over 700,000 businesses register to sign up for MTD. So we've had over 100,000 sign up in the past week alone, and we are seeing the rate of about 10,000 businesses sign up per day. We are really pleased with those figures, but obviously we encourage more businesses to sign up if they can. We've also had over 440,000 businesses successfully make their MTD VAT submissions. So they have come from across a section of the VAT population. So within those submissions, we've had monthly filers, we've had businesses who are on annual returns, we've had your normal quarterly returns, we've had direct debit payers, we've had monthly filers. So we are happy that HMRC systems can cope with the various sectors of the VAT population. And which might be more relevant to the audience that have dialed in today, we've had over 27,500 agent service accounts sign up. And I will talk a little bit more about the agent service accounts as I go through my presentation. If you can move on a little bit for me, Julia. Julia, can you move on to the next slide? Brilliant. So this, I think, is a really powerful slide, and I put it in because I am aware that people think that HMRC are really intractable on the rules that they that they make. So what I wanted to show is that based on feedback, we do listen to people's feedback, and we do actually change the rules as based on feedback that we receive. So for example, HMRC recently announced the exemptions for MTD for VAT. And we initially said that you needed to apply for exemptions in writing. However, we listened to feedback that we got from our stakeholders, and now we have said that you can apply for exemptions by either telephone or in writing. I will talk a little bit more about the exemptions later on in the presentation. Similarly, I also hear a lot about the HMRC for VAT is a huge burden on the business, because we are making people buy all singing, all dancing, invest in all singing, all dancing cloud-based software. So just to let you know, when MTD was first announced for by HMRC, HMRC initially said that you couldn't use spreadsheets, that we didn't consider that spreadsheets would be a digital option. However, HMRC did listen to feedback that we got from external stakeholders, and we have now said that if you want to continue keeping your records in a spreadsheet, that is fine, you can continue to do so. However, that spreadsheet itself needs to be API enabled, or you need a piece of bridging software to be able to get the 9-box totals to HMRC for your VAT return. I do hear a lot of rumours that these are only short-term solutions. So just to let you know that from HMRC's point of view, if you're keeping your records within a spreadsheet and using a bridging software as your solution to get your records to HMRC, HMRC do consider that to be a long-term solution. We are not going to take away your ability to be able to do that in the near future. So just to repeat, so if you're using spreadsheets and bridging software, they are considered to be long-term solutions by HMRC. And again, if anyone's got any questions about that, I'm happy to take those questions later on in the presentation. Similarly with supplier statements, so if you take a look at VAT Notice 700/22, which is where you find a lot of legislation, in fact all the legislation to do with MTD for VAT, HMRC used to say that you need to record all your input tax on via recording all your purchase invoices. However, we listened to feedback from businesses, for example, builders and chemists, who have a lot of small invoices, and it would have been very onerous for them to have to record all the input tax from all their input tax statements. So what we have said now is that you can reclaim your input tax on supplier monthly statements, as long as obviously you have all the invoices to back up those statements. So just to repeat, that you can record your invoice, you can reclaim your input tax based on monthly supplier statements now. And again, you'll find that in VAT Notice 700/22. Similarly, with petty cash transactions, HMRC initially said that you needed to record all your supplier invoices that related to your petty cash reclaims. Now what we have said is that HMRC will accept that you can batch the supplier, your petty cash transactions together and reclaim them in bulk, as long as one invoice within that bundle does not exceed £50 and the whole bundle itself does not exceed £500. And again, you can check those figures within VAT Notice 700/72. So just to let you know, we have changed things based on feedback that we have received from external stakeholders, and hopefully we will be refining the MTD for VAT system with other changes in the future. Recently, we've brought in changes to do with the agent service account journey, and I just haven't had a chance to put those on that slide yet because they have been so recent. So you'll find now that if you go in to create your agent service account, it's a slightly different journey to the ones that people have gone through in the past. So we have improved it. So now when you link your clients across from your old government gateway account, we will actually replay to you how many clients you have actually copied across, so that you are aware that you have genuinely linked those two accounts together. We've also provided the facility now for when you ask clients to authorise you. There is a list now where you can track those authorisations. And again, these are new improvements to the journey, that the agent service account journey that we've brought in based on feedback that we've got from external stakeholders. And hopefully, as I say, we will improve the service in future as well. So if you can go on to the next slide for me, please, Julia. So where do HMRC want to be? Well, obviously we are happy with the numbers that are signing up at the moment, but we would obviously encourage more people to sign up if they can, if they should be mandated to do so. We're going through a period of consolidation, so we're going to make sure that our HMRC systems are ready and able to cope with MTD for VAT. And we're going to learn lessons that we from MTD for VAT before we introduce it for any other taxes. So just to be clear about the other taxes, it was announced in the spring statement earlier this year that we will not be mandating any other taxes before 2022 at the earliest. Although we do currently have an ITSA pilot, MTD for ITSA pilot, that you might be interested in joining. So common sense tells me that the next tax that may be mandated is ITSA. But we haven't even consulted on corporation tax yet. So what we're going to do definitely is make sure that MTD for VAT is up and working before we look at any of the other mandating any of the other taxes. And then as Amy touched on, obviously we will be assuring that they will be growing throughout the summer as the other quarterly VAT returns are mandated to be to join MTD for VAT. Great. If you go on to the other slide for me, please, Julia. Thank you. So I said that I'd talk a little bit about exemptions. You'll find all the rules for exemptions again in VAT Notice 700/22. And as I say, that really should be your first port of call for if you've got any queries about the legislation behind MTD for VAT. But then the former kind of VAT inspector in me kind of wants you to know that a lot of the rules for VAT, in fact, the majority of rules for VAT have not changed. The ones that have for MTD, you will find within that notice. So if you've got any queries about VAT, just have a little think back about what is the basic rule, because you will find that they haven't changed unless they are contained within that notice 700/22. So if you're interested, or if you've got a client out there who wants to apply for an exemption for MTD for VAT, to my mind, there are broadly 4 main exemptions. So if you have a client or you yourself are currently exempt from online filing for your VAT returns, that exemption will follow through to MTD for VAT. So you don't need to apply for an exemption. You are automatically exempt. Similarly, if you are VAT registered and your turnover, your taxable turnover is below £85,000, you do not need to apply for an exemption. You are automatically exempt from applying for MTD for VAT. Then the exemptions that you do need to apply for, if you're a member of a religious society whose beliefs are incompatible with complying with MTD for VAT, you need to write in to tell us to get an exemption. And then the 4th category, which is really the catch-all category, is where it is not reasonably practicable for you to follow MTD for VAT rules. And the one that I get asked a lot about, Julia will know when I go out to events, is that agents have got a client who is elderly and doesn't want to comply with MTD for VAT rules. So it's worth my while explaining about that. The MTD or HMRC cannot say that age per se is an exemption. So if you have a client out there who is 80 years old, writing in and telling us that they are 80 and don't want to comply with MTD for VAT rules is not sufficient to gain you an exemption. Because HMRC really couldn't say that. We couldn't say anybody over the age of, for example, 75 is exempt from complying with MTD for VAT, because we would then be disadvantaging some very tech-savvy 75-year-olds out there who want to comply with MTD for VAT. So my advice to you is, if you have a client who is elderly and can't or doesn't want to comply with MTD for VAT, you need to write in and give us more than just his age, just their age as a reason for not complying with MTD for VAT rules. That's great. If you go on to the next page for me, please, Julia. So Where are HMRC up to with the exemption process at the moment? Well, as I say, you can apply for exemptions from either by telephone or in writing to the VAT inquiries. You'll find how to do that in VAT Notice 700/22. When I developed this slide, HMRC had just over 2,300 exemption applications. However, to bring me back to my previous point, a significant number of those applications had come from businesses whose taxable turnover is under £85,000. So just to repeat, you do not need to apply for an exemption if you're VAT registered and your taxable turnover is below £85,000, because you are automatically exempt from complying with MTD for VAT rules. Then my further point is that many are writing in, citing just age alone as a reason with no supporting evidence as to why you can't comply with MTD for VAT rules. So just to be clear, if you have an elderly client or if you are elderly and you can't comply with MTD for VAT rules, you need to give us more reasons than just your age. And then I thought this was a good result. So the net result was showing that 80% of HMRC are allowing 80% of the exemption applications that they are receiving. However, when I look at the bullet point number 3, if a significant number of those businesses, those exemption applications are coming from businesses that are under £85,000 who are automatically exempt, that plainly will be skewing that £80,000, that 80% figure. Okay, that's great, Julie. If you move on to the next slide. So if you need any help and support for MTD for businesses, the advice on this screen will probably be worth your while taking. So really, you need to phone the VAT helpline or try the online services help desk. Obviously gov.uk, and if you type Making Tax Digital into the search field, that will give you loads and loads of information. HMRC ourselves, we hold a lot of webinars. We do webinars for businesses and we do webinars for agents. And if you want to register for any of those, I'd encourage you to do so. And also you should have the ability to listen to any of our previous recordings. Similar to what ICB are doing today is we give you the opportunity to ask questions while we're holding the webinar, and we do try and answer as many of those questions as we can get around to doing so. We also have a couple of YouTube videos that you can have a look at, and obviously we have the gov.uk guidance as well. I'd also encourage you to, if you go through your agent service account journey, if you have any stage in that journey that you get stuck, or indeed doing anything like signing up your clients for MTD for VAT, don't ignore on the bottom left-hand side of the page, there should be a Get Help with this page button. If you click on that button, it will open up a box that gives you the ability to type your personal details into that box, and also give us the problem that you're encountering on that page. That will then raise a ticket with HMRC, and we will then come back to you within a given time to answer that question to hopefully solve the problem that you're having on that page. So this is a bit of a tip from me. Try and look for that Get Help with this page button. Okay, that's great, Julie. If you go on to the next page. Okay, then a little bit of a plug for the MTD update for agents. So this is something that the CREST team, the Customer Readiness and External Stakeholder team that I work on, produce a fortnightly. We're trying to do it fortnightly, kind of informal update for agents. We try and do it as informally as we think we can get away with. And what we do is we try and update you on things that have happened over the last 2 weeks and what they mean for agents. And then we also try and do an explanation based on various things, various questions that we get from events that we go out to. So for example, in the past, we felt that a lot of agents were asking us what is meant by digital links. So we did like a spotlight on digital links and tried to explain what digital links are. So if you're interested in receiving the copies of this MTD update for agent, write into the mailbox, the link that is showing on the screen there. They've been 8 updates so far, and if you write in for one update, we'll make sure that you get all 8 updates. You can have a go. I mean, it might be worthwhile subscribing, getting the 8 updates and having a look at them. If you decide that you don't want them, we can always take you off the mailing list. That isn't a problem, but it just might give you a bit more information as well. That's great, Julia. If you go on to the next page. So, right, a subject close to my heart, agent service account. So just to be clear, if you are an agent out there and you want to still submit MTD for VAT returns on behalf of your clients, you do need an agent service account. There is a step-by-step guide to setting up your agent service account on gov.uk, and I would encourage you to have a look for it. If you use that step-by-step guide, it puts you into the correct URLs, and it's absolutely invaluable. So as I say, you need this agent service account if you want to submit MTD VAT returns for your client. You may already have this account if you already have it set up, if you have an account for the Trust Registration Service. If you do have an account for the Trust Registration Service, this is the same account that you use to sign up your clients and submit your clients' MTD VAT returns. So if you go in to create your agent service account, and if you go into it and it's telling you that you already have an account, it may be because, try and think, it may be because you've already got one set up for the Trust Registration Service. Another alternative is someone else in your firm has already set up your agent service account. But the long and the short of it is, if it's telling you that you've already got an agent service account, you will have an agent service account. So try and find your details for it. If not, you need to phone up the VAT helpline, and they will need to delete the account and you will need to start up again. So I'm just trying to save you having to hang on to the VAT helpline, to phone up the VAT helpline. So as I say, there's a step-by-step process for creating your agent service account. One of the steps, the first step really should be that you create your agent service account. Then you link your clients from your existing government gateway to that agent service account. And then you sign up your clients for MTD for VAT. So really, you should have done certainly those first 2 steps by now. You should have created your account, and you should have linked your existing client or copied your existing clients across for your agent service account. And what you should be doing now is trying to sign up your clients that need to submit their VAT returns. So you need to sign them up individually, but you don't need to do them all at once. So what you should be doing now is signing up your clients who need to submit quarterly returns that start on the 1st of April, because as Amy correctly says, they are the first quarter that need to submit by the 7th of August. So those are the clients that you should be signing up now. And then obviously you should be linking authorizing your software and linking your software to that account. So if anyone's got any queries about the agent service account, please put them in the chat box and I will try and get back and help you with them. Okay, that's great, Julia. If you go on to the next slide. Okay, penalties. So this is a little bit about where HMRC are up to with penalties. So the reason for me putting this slide in is that I did get a lot of flack at an event I went to. It wasn't a Sage event. However, I got a lot of flack from the audience who said that HMRC have only introduced MTD for VAT and given us very little communication about it, because the intention is that they're going to hit businesses and agents hard with penalties when we get it wrong. So just to let you know that HMRC have announced that there will be a very soft approach to penalties. So there will be no record keeping penalties expected for the first year of MTD for VAT, where we can see that businesses or agents are trying their best to comply with MTD for VAT rules. So if you're trying your best to comply but doing it wrong, we will not be issuing penalties for you. We will be using penalties as a last resort, and we'll be using them really for businesses who are VAT registered over the £85,000 threshold and who are deciding not to comply with MTD for VAT rules. They're the businesses that we will be hitting hard with penalties, but we will not be using penalties on businesses that we see trying their best to comply with MTD for VAT rules. However, the VAT inspector needs to draw your attention to the fact that default surcharge will still apply. So my advice to you is, if you are ever having a problem getting your MTD for VAT submission to us, at least pay it and then try and get the figures to us, because you don't want it to fall into the default surcharge regime. Okay, that's great. Julie, if you go on to the next slide. So just to kind of reiterate that HMRC are set up, this is our role. We do need to ensure that VAT is correctly declared and paid, and we will still be doing that despite our soft approach to penalties. So compliance officers will still be continuing to visit or make inquiries into yours or your clients' books and records, and we will be reviewing digital records. And as I say, penalties for non or late payments will remain in place. So default surcharge will still be in place. So pay your VAT return even if you can't get it to us digitally. But we do appreciate, as I say, that MTD for VAT is a change, and HMRC will help and encourage and support businesses to implement MTD for VAT. And we are not intending to penalise businesses who are genuinely working towards implementation but are encountering delays. We will be treating those businesses sympathetically. However, businesses who are making no effort to comply with MTD for VAT, we will be penalising. That's great, Julia, if you go on to the next slide. And I think that's it for me. So thank you for listening. Happy to take your questions towards the end of this, this webinar. Over to you, Julia.
Excellent, thank you, Verna. So from a Sage perspective, I'll take you through when my slides start moving on. An update from where Sage are. So I just want to bring us onto the timeline. Everyone's talking about this 7th of August. We know the monthly filers have done 2 months worth of successful filing, and I call this the 3 MTD Peak Challenge. About 8%, 6 to 8% of businesses do monthly VAT returns, 1% are annual. So the majority of businesses are quarterly filing. And the split across these 3 quarters is 40% of those fall under the first quarter, which is running from April to June, with them submitting on or before the 7th of August. The next 2 are 30% even splits. We use this kind of insight at Sage to try and help manage resource and demand, etc. So all of us are probably preparing for a big filing peak on or before the 7th of August. We know at Sage our most common submission day for VAT, because we've been submitting VAT returns through our software for many, many years, always seems to be the 7th of August. On that day, I'm actually flying, not filing. I'm going on holiday, so I'm really excited about that. I did it before the boss realised what day it was. So where are we? We're not 29 working days. We're actually about 13 working days to August. There's about 800,000 businesses. You know, as Verna said, there's 700,000. 800,000 will be signed up and ready to submit by the 7th of August. And we know from discussions and insight from HMRC, many of those businesses as well are not just the mandated, the non-mandated are signing up. Sage has had tens and tens of thousands of submissions successfully through. The software's been piloted successfully before it went live, and that's through our whole portfolio from business cloud accounting through Sage 50 Cloud all the way through to our enterprise products, as well as our MTD adapter, which is our bridging software for accountants and bookkeepers. I think everyone's doing the preparation to be ready for MTD, and the challenge is the reactives. And I wouldn't say the ICB bookkeepers are anything but reactive. I know from personal experience working with many of our ICB members, you're a very proactive audience, and you know I would say it's probably businesses who are maybe doing their own VAT returns that we see as more reactive. We know from conversations I've had with various practices, bookkeepers, accountants, there's been lots and lots of communication. You know, there's been letters, there's been calls, there's been logging on the HMRC website and it big in red bold, MTD's coming. But it you know, we've, after doing a number of seminars with businesses, it's quite shocking when you talk to businesses and they weren't aware of the MTD in terms of what the journey was for them and what they needed to do. So I think all of us have got the potential to face calls and queries and reaches out for help at peak times, because they'll turn to bookkeepers and say, what do I do? I need to talk to someone. So I thought it would be good to share some of the common problems we've seen. And some of those are related to setting up the software, but also relating to the sign-up journey. For businesses, and particularly, there's been a number who've upgraded from old versions to get up to date. And what we're seeing is people are upgrading, well, they're upgrading, but they haven't necessarily done the install, or they've upgraded and haven't updated their activation key and serial number. So we get a call saying, I've gone in to switch my switch on and I can't see the MTD switch in Sage 50 Cloud or Business Cloud Accounting. It's already there because we've enabled that for everyone to switch on. But if they're not seeing the switch, it's often because they haven't put in the new serial number and activation key, and just doing that may to be for lot to journey, and we business those aren't using software to submit, even though the button's been there for many years. We know from our own accountants and bookkeepers tend to use the software. A lot of businesses tend to key in on the gateway, so it's a new journey for them. So what we get are common calls on I'm trying to submit, they've set the switch on in the software, but they haven't set on the switch with HMRC, so they haven't signed up to MTD. And so the software and the HMRC side are not in sync. The software is trying to send it through the MTD portal because the MTD switches on, and HMRC hasn't got that business signed up. Well, the business hasn't signed up, so HMRC aren't expecting that VAT return to be sent through an MTD portal. So there's a common error, and that would happen with whatever software, be it Sage or anyone else. So we get the call, we say, have you signed up for HMRC? They say no, so we say you need to switch on, and depending on how you pay, if it's not by direct debit, you need to allow up to 72 hours. If you're paying by direct debit, then you need to allow 7 working days. We tell them that. We then get another call saying, I'm still getting an error. I've set up the software. I've signed up with HMRC. When did you sign up with HMRC? I've just done it. And again, it's that, expectation with businesses. It will happen there and then. So I think that's something that, bookkeepers will probably hear from maybe businesses who haven't got a great ICB bookkeeper there to support them and hold the hand. I think for bookkeepers who act as agents, I think what we've seen through many months working with HMRC and leading up to it, it's the agent services account journey. The setup, the signing up, even if it's been straightforward, you may not necessarily have had the confidence to know that's actually been successful until you've actually reached the point where you're validating the software or you're doing the submission. And that's something that we've been working on, because we know with agent services account, one of the most common questions we've seen at both the March and the summer roadshows is, I don't see a list of clients. So some of the things we've been working on to support businesses and practices through the MTD peaks that we're going to see over the coming months is resource on the helplines being a number one priority. I do apologise if anyone's sat in a queue. A few months ago it was extremely busy, and this was all about people getting ready, completing the last non-MTD submission. So it also happened to fall at a time that payroll year end. We've thrown lots of I'm saying thrown it, we don't throw them, I just throw them at the lines. We've put an awful lot of resource on the lines. We've got people who are dedicated to doing the install calls, because as we know, some people leave that quite late. We've also utilised our resource across different countries to help, as well as increasing the opening times and planning for open again on weekends, etc. We also changed our telephone number recently. It's a local geographical rate number, so if you do need to ring the helpline, it tells you what that number is. We've also communicated that, so please make sure you update your favourite numbers with those numbers from the new numbers from Sage if they're in your speed dials, etc. And tell your clients that as well. We've been running many webinars and seminars, like ones today. We've got a live Q&A chat on the helpline every single day that takes thousands of questions, and we've got lots of Ask Sage articles. Those Ask Sage articles are for businesses and for agents. There's some specific ones for agents as well. We've been running recently some Sage 50 Cloud MTD events. We've run them across the last few months. Those are aimed at businesses who do their own VAT. We have had bookkeepers and practices attend those, more from a train the trainer perspective, but we take businesses through what their sign up journey is like, from to sign up with HMRC, to perform a health check in the software, a checklist, something that they should be checking with the bookkeepers to make sure they're doing things right. And also Verna and her team have supported us with those events, so they've covered off any technical MTD questions from a HMRC perspective. When you log into any Sage bookkeeping product, it tells you to make sure you've signed up with HMRC for MTD. So trying to encourage, and click on the link. So we're trying to encourage businesses doing that way. For you as bookkeepers in practice, we've got an update to Sage 50 Cloud Client Manager. We've got the MTD adapter, which is not just for bridging, but it also brings together data from different sources, and I'll talk a little about that. And we've also got a new development that's soon to come out, which is the Sage MTD VAT Centre, and I've got a little sneak preview of that for you today. Now, if any of you use Sage 50 Client Manager, you may recognize this company screen. We've got a summer update coming out by the end of next month, and in that's got a number of improvements and new releases, one being CIS reverse charge. But sticking with MTD, we've also updated a new field on there to show you which clients have been MTD enabled. So you know from a software perspective who's been switched on and who needs to be switched on if they haven't yet activated the software. It is reading just a software preference, not HMRC's MTD status. There's also token authentication improvements going into this release, and I know there was a question about this that came up before we ran the webinar from one of the members. When you do an MTD submission through Sage 50 Cloud, you enter your credentials at the point of submission, not in the VAT preferences. So you switch on, and when you're ready to do the submission, at that point it's going to ask you for your credentials, and if you're acting as an agent, you're putting in the agent credentials. In the summer release, it's going to update that, so that'll give you the option to copy those credentials across the more than one company. So that will allow you to save those credentials for the next 18 months against those clients. So you do the submissions, and your multi-company management of token authentication will be dealt with and improved in the next release. So you don't enter your YARN reference, as it's called, your agent services reference, in your e-submission credentials. Those credentials are still required if you're doing submissions, for example, your EC sales list, because that still goes through the old gateway. We've had a lot of practices asking us about bridging, what I call bridging the gap. Yes, Excel is a valid way of keeping books. It's a recognized digital record keeping system, but you need bridging software to do that submission. We've got a software that will not just take Excel, but it'll also consolidate multiple data sources into one. We've had various examples where you may have more than one company set up on Sage. For example, not just for groups, it could be genuine reasons, different divisions, or where they've been using Sage for doing, say, the purchase, the financial data, but another system like garages, vets, etc., their systems have been doing the bookkeeping for sales invoices. So this can work as a tool to support those. Also, I've had, over the recent weeks, spoke to a number of practices who've said, I've had clients come to me last minute saying, well, new clients taken on, to be honest, saying, I need to get my VAT submission. I'm really worried about it, and the starting point is Excel. Bookkeepers have said, I want to get that data into the bookkeeping system, but I'm using bridging just as a short-term measure to get the first MTD return through, then I'm moving it on to software. So this is what our MTD module looks like. On the MTD module, you can choose where you get the data from. And on here it currently says Excel, but in this drop down you can also pick things like Sage 50 and also TAS. The more you can select one company and then submit that, and it follows exactly the same process as Sage 50 Cloud, where you enter your credentials and off it goes through. Or it could read and/or Sage 50 data. So this is where it'll select multiple companies and consolidate those returns onto the one submission. For Excel clients, we have got an MTD template, and in that template, you've got the ability to source your calculations. So we know in many where spreadsheet records are being used, there's calculations in there that calculate the various boxes, and all you do is reference those source values. That then spin back into your MTD submission, pull the data through, and then you submit that. So the other solution that we're currently working on, and I'm particularly excited about, is the MTD VAT Centre. Something that we talked about in March, and this was a suggestion from Chris Downing, who is our product director and for accountants, and he spent many years in practice and working with a local network of bookkeepers. His suggestion around the problem on the ASA list was, why don't you utilize your current gateway? You've got the ability to reference your clients, so you can see which clients have been moved across for MTD. That's something you can control, because we know you need to continue using your current gateway for other taxes that aren't MTD, or for any clients who have not been mandated for MTD. So that would be one suggestion, and I know a number of practices successfully implemented that and said that was a great help. But really it's about the managing and dealing with queries on the MTD VAT clients. The fact is, you don't see a list, and it's dealing with those queries. So we have got the ability to actually go in and start querying the MTD clients that are linked to your agent services account. Our MTD VAT Centre is going to be enabled through our Accountant Partner Edition, and any Sage accountant or bookkeeper gets access to that free of charge as part of their membership. If you're already using Sage Business Cloud Accounting, you'll be familiar with this. You don't have to have a a service, i.e. the client doesn't have to be using a Sage product to appear on the MTD VAT Centre list. You can import any clients, because what we're reading is HMRC's data. We're using HMRC's APIs that are linked to your agent services account to surface information. So from our point of view, we don't care what color of the bookkeeping rainbow your bookkeeping software is, because I recognize it can be used, you can be using multiple software across multiple clients. This is bookkeeping software agnostic. This has the ability to query your agent services account. So the first thing that you would do is, in the settings, you would do the practice authentication. So that is a handshake between your agent services account and the software. So we're connecting HMRC agent services account with Accounting Partner Edition. You would put in your agent services account credentials, validate it, and that would connect your practice with the agent services account. And that will allow us to read information. Now, this is a preview. It's I know it's moved on a lot since I started doing this presentation. Once that connection is set up between our software and HMRC, this is where you can do your query. So in the first iteration, you'll be able to put in the VAT registration number. It confirms who they are. From there, we'll be able to pull back MTD returns, your payments and liabilities for that client. Pull back the 9 boxes. Now that is the 9 boxes that have gone through to HMRC, not from any software. So it's not pulling back the 9 boxes from the software, it's pulling back the 9 box values that have gone through the HMRC APIs. So those are the things that Sage is working on, what we've done, and how we're here to support you. So for me, there's the kind of 3 tips is, we can help is making sure that you're signed up successfully. Businesses who are doing their own VAT are signed up successfully, and we've got the VAT Centre there to help you query any of your MTD clients. Software is really important. It's about having compliant software, which we know ours is, but it's making sure that people have got the right version, it's activated. If you need to make use of an adapter, there is one available from Sage. There is a charge, and we can provide that. Your account manager can provide that. And it's really about utilizing automation. And we're there at the end of a phone, as well as at the end of a web chat, at the end of a Ask Sage article, and account manager is there to support as well. So that's it from me. I think it's time to have a look at some of the questions that we've been answered. And I believe, Amy, there was a few that came in before we started the webinar.
We have, yes. We've thank you everyone for all your wonderful questions. We had 3 before the webinar. We've had almost hundreds during the webinar. I just wondered, Julia, if you could just clarify something for me just about the accounting partner, because that seems very useful. And is it going to be able to show you which clients are in your ASA?
So in the first iteration, you'll be able to query it on a client-by-client basis, and there'll be a number of releases post that. So in the very near future, you'll be able to see a list of your MTD VAT clients.
Okay, fabulous. Because
and that's free as well. That's not chargeable.
Great. And as you said, you can use any of the software pieces from the software rainbow. I like that. Any color, there's no judgment. Wonderful. Okay, so we've got lots of questions. I think what I've been trying to do is just sort of stick them all into sort of thematic segments.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the things people are, well, let's start with Chris Green. He's a fellow of ICB and he sent his email in before the event. He's got a question for you, Julia. He's been submitting his VAT returns for numerous clients on Sage 50 accounts, in the company preferences tab on Sage 50 accounts, my client's government gateway user ID and password are set up. In the e-submissions contact details section, my name, email address, and telephone number are in the e-submissions credentials section. Do I still have to obtain authorization from my client through my agent services account to submit their VAT returns?
If this client is
complex.
Yeah, well, no, I think there's two questions in there. From a Sage perspective, if they're being, or if he's authorized, he's set up his agent services account and that client has he's signed up the client for MTD. At the point of he would need to set on the switch in the software, and then when he goes through the wizard, it'll take him through a different VAT submission wizard. Good thing is you're already using the software to do your submissions and you'll already be following a wizard. Switching on the MTD switch will take you through a different wizard, and at that point it'll ask you to put in your credentials. If you're the agent, you would put in your agent services credentials. In the summer update that I talked about, that will be out by the end of next month for Sage 50 Cloud, it will ask you to save those credentials across multiple clients. So you don't need to use the e-submission details because that relates to the old gateway, not the new MTD gateway. But he would need to make sure his client's been signed up for MTD in order for the submission to go through successfully. Because two criterias, MTD is switched on and the software is switched on.
And the software is authorized. Actually, somebody asked, when you're authorizing your software, do you do it through the ASA or do you do that through your software?
You set up the software to say, I'm going to submit a MTD VAT return. So in Business Cloud Accounting and in Sage 50 Cloud, there's a company preference in VAT settings. There's a switch that you tick box that you set up, and that will work as long as the client's been signed up for MTD, either via the agent or the business has done it themselves directly.
Or the business directly. But is there anything in the ASA where you have to tell the ASA what software you're going to use?
Then I think it
that might be a Verna question. Yeah. Because
no, I don't
did
think
reply
you
to
do.
say that you do, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you do, Amy. It's just, in all honesty, I don't think HMRC cares, just as long as we get it from functional compatible software using the API kind of thing. We don't really mind where we get it from.
Okay, so
was it there in the earlier journey, Verna? You know, where they were asked to select a software.
I don't think so.
No.
Kind of you to say, Julia.
Yeah.
I'm going to say maybe it was. Very nice of you. So let's just sort of dial it back a little bit, go a little bit further back to the beginning and talk about being authorized as an agent. We've had quite a few questions. Jennifer Gould, Susanna Whelan, Margaret Crawford have all got issues about this, challenges, should I say. Jennifer says, I've linked my original agent account to the ASA, that's fine, but actually I've got a new VAT client and I've authorized them within my ASA. They are now showing on my client listing there, but I'm still getting a message that the client is not authorized for me to enroll for MTD. Do I need to authorize them on my original account?
Okay, so I think if I understand the question correctly, so The agent has set up their agent services account, linked their clients, their original clients across from their original government gateway, then since then has developed a new client in effect. I think that's where we're going with that one.
Exactly.
So I don't know, no, it sounds like you've done the right things. So basically the client themselves needs to sign up, the business themselves needs to sign up to say they want to submit their VAT returns digitally. Then the agent needs to then request authorization to act for them via a link on their ASA account. The client then gets sent an email to click the link saying, will you verify this agent? That if they click the link, the agent should then be authorized to act for them.
And how long is that likely to take, do you think?
It's a very quick process, actually. However, you do need to make sure you do give it some time there, because the client themselves needs to sign up to submit MTD VAT returns. We need to then move them on to a new platform. I think we say give it 72 hours, at most 72 hours, but I know it can be it's way less than that. I think it's like literally the next day when you can apply, but you do need to give it some time, and you do need to do it in the right order as well. Really, you can't apply for authorization before they've decided that they're going to submit MTD VAT returns.
That's very interesting, and hopefully that's answers Susanna's question as well. Because
actually, as well, I've got another kind of tip, Amy, that if the agent has gone through that process and is having them problems, you know, everything seems to have flowed through okay, and this goes for any kind of other problems that agents are having with their ASA account. If everything seems to have gone okay, and then you're having a real difficulty doing like the final aspect of it, go into your, this is going to sound really patronizing, but I've seen it work so often, go into your internet browsing history and clear your cookies. It's just an anomaly. I don't understand because I'm not techie, but it just, your computer somehow gets stuck in this like never-ending loop, which is like, you know, a circle of hell basically. But if you can get out of it by just clearing your cookies, and honestly, it works so often. I've seen it so often. So just try that before you start panicking.
Wow. Okay, so clear your cookies, clear your cache. I don't know if that's the same.
Yeah, clear your cache. Yeah. Chris Downing from Sage will say something about private browsing, won't he, Julia? But I don't know if we want to go into that.
No, I still don't know what he's talking about with his private browsing
history, but we just deny all knowledge with that one.
That's very interesting. Okay, so Susanna and anyone who's having a similar problem, get the new VAT clients to sign up themselves for MTD VAT digitally, and then become authorized to be their agent for VAT.
To be honest, Amy, I think you can do it either way. So you can do it that way, which I've just outlined to you, or you can get them on your legacy online service account, and then you yourself can pull them across, sign them up to submit MTD VAT returns. I suppose it depends which way around you want to do it. The benefit of doing it that way is that if you get them on your old or your legacy online agent account, you would then also get the list. You'll get them to see a list of your clients within your legacy account. So there is benefits to doing it that way if you don't want to get them to sign it themselves and then request authorization.
I see. So at least you'll be able to see they're there. Okay, yeah, Margaret Crawford, you may have answered this with the clearing cookies. She says, all of my clients have signed up for MTD successfully. Hooray! But none can authorize us as an agent. A few have given me their HMRC logins, and I've tried, and I can't authorize them either. And in the final step, the window we get shows, sorry, there is a problem with this service.
Yeah, so Margaret, try what I've suggested. Just try clearing your cookies. It sounds like there is something wrong there, you know, with the technical thing. But then I also have to pull Margaret up on, please don't use your client's credentials. If it's an agent, you should be using your agent kind of credentials, so not logging in as a client. But I do understand that a lot of bookkeepers do that.
Yes. And is there, I mean, I presume, yeah, probably quite a lot of them do that. Why would you not do that?
Because if you are acting as a paid agent, you are acting as an agent, therefore you have your own credentials. So you should be using your own credentials for the software, for your agent services account, and the business's credentials are purely for the business to use.
Okay, so noted, everybody, behave. Another question, this is probably sort of comes back also to that kind of the legacy login. Lorraine Adams was told, apparently, that she shouldn't link all the clients to the agent services account, as then she wouldn't be able to use the sort of legacy submissions portal. An extremely helpful chap at HMRC then said that advice has changed. If you've got clients who are exempt, are under that 85k threshold, or for whatever reason, should you, what would you advise? Do you keep them on the old...
Lorraine, I saw that question come in and I was just like horrified.
Oh.
So if I try and explain what actually happens. So when you create your agent service account, then you need to copy your clients across from your existing online agent services account. You copy them across in bulk. Anyone connected with that government gateway is copied across. But at that stage, you're not signing them up. You're not committing them to do anything to do with MTD. So you can still, I think the best way of describing it is it acts like, the best way of describing is it acts like a pipeline. So when you kind of link those two accounts, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're creating a link there, but you're not actually signing your clients up for MTD until you actually sign them up to submit MTD returns, at which point you then actually commit them to doing MTD. So to answer Lorraine's question, yeah, you copy across your whole government gateway credentials. If you've got 73 clients within those credentials, it will reflect that you have copied across 73 client relationships. However, the ones that you don't want to, that you want to submit the old way via the VAT portal, everyone still remains on your legacy account, and you can still act for those clients via your legacy account because you're not signing those clients up to submit MTD VAT returns.
Okay, I think that was very clear, actually, how you explain that. Would you be able to just go into a little bit more detail about how you actually do bring those clients across? You said it's in bulk, so effectively you don't have the option of selecting which clients you want.
Yes.
But how do you actually do it?
You copy, I think, well, as I say, this comes back to when you do is you create a pipeline. So you do that, and as I say, there is no commitment then that will say, I'm going to use a figure 73. There's no commitment then that you are committing all 73 of your clients to submit MTD VAT returns, because there is then a further step after this in the journey where you need to sign your clients up to submit MTD returns. And it's at that stage that you are committing them to submit MTD VAT returns. So you would then look at, for example, your 73 clients and think, out of those 73 clients, how many of those are mandated? And do I need to sign up? And you would sign up to submit MTD returns for those, however many out of the 73 are mandated to do so. The others will still kind of be there in your account, but you would still also have them in your old legacy account, and you would submit them the old way.
And how do you actually, where do you sign them up to MTD? Presumably that has to be in the old login.
And I can't recommend this enough, Amy, try and find the agent step-by-step guide on gov.uk. So I find it.
Has it been updated?
Yes, it has, to reflect the new changes that I talked about in my presentation. So I find it by I go into gov.uk, I type making tax digital into the search engine, and it's literally, I think, that pulls you up all the information on making tax digital. And it's literally, I think, about the third or fourth line down, step-by-step guide for agents. And if you go into that really is, it's invaluable.
Okay, great. Because definitely as of the 1st of May, it was very light on how you actually link clients and sign them up to MTD. There were no screenshots or anything.
I'm not saying there's screenshots, however, but then where you can get screenshots actually is if you go into any of the historic recordings of the making of the webinars. I know for a fact we do the agent service account sign up journey, and that they will hopefully give you screenshots as well.
Okay. Some of them were from the pilot, weren't they? So it's all slightly different. But okay.
Yeah. Yes, but I'll
have a look at it myself.
Future webinars will definitely be updated to reflect the new changes that I talked about in my presentation. I know we are looking into updating those at the moment.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So Lorraine Adams, she's bothered by the fact she can't see which clients are signed up, which clients are in her ASA and which are signed up for VAT. Basically, she says it's tricky, and the MTD department seems understaffed at the moment. Unfortunately, that's a shame. But basically, she says, I had to call to check that one of our clients was appearing on the new agent services, as we were asked by the client to sign them up via their own gateway and not via our agent services. So this, you've said already, don't do that, haven't you?
Yes, so I mean, I appreciate it is really tricky that you can't see a list of your clients in your agent services account, and I can go into a very long explanation for why we don't do that if you want me to. However, I think probably the best tip, and again at the risk of sounding really patronising, is that you know, this is the start of your MTG journey, and if you could just take a step back and try and get your practice kind of sorted out. So I don't know, get some kind of spreadsheet set up with the clients that you have that are MTD filers, the ones that aren't, and then that, you know, there is another kind of tip as well, is that if you do have clients that are under the £85,000 threshold who aren't mandated to file MTD returns, is it just easier to get them to file MTD returns as well, so then all your VAT clients are filing in the same fashion, rather than having to worry about which are going one way and which are going the other way?
Yes. Okay. So what we'll do, I think quite a few people have got the questions about how to actually switch on the MTD, that section, which I always thought was a bit light in the agent step by step. So what I'll do after this, I'll work with you and I'll look at that myself and make sure that that is as clear as day, and make sure that people can definitely do it the MTD way for all their clients in their ASA. Another question for Sage. Joe Holmes says, I've just submitted our VAT return via Sage. The return is still showing as pending in Sage, but on the HMRC website, it shows it's as submitted. How long would we normally expect to wait for it to be updated?
The question I would ask is, which software did you use to submit that? And maybe I get the details of that so I can fire it to our support line, because normally you go through the software and you get a success message back with a correlation ID that says the two joined up. So I'll have to take that to customer services. So if you could private message me the details, I'll take that offline if that's okay. Because normally it's from my experience, it's submitted and then it's come back.
Right, okay. So Joe, it sounds like you were right to query that. So we'll ask for a bit more detail about that. And Coral Ramsden has asked, this is interesting. So she's done a MTD submission successfully for a client, but they're going to take their Sage in-house next quarter. Can you believe it? Presumably they're growing, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't want to leave my gateway details in Sage. So does he have to register his own gateway for MTD to be able to do his own VAT next quarter? And we're concerned if I take him off my list, will he be left in limbo? Bless you.
So Mike, again, I think it depends on what software they're using. So if they're using Sage 50, are you giving them the backup of their data? It doesn't store your credentials in Sage 50. If you're using Sage Business Cloud Accounting, you would just remove your credentials and give access to, you can say, give access to your client. So if they're doing it themselves, if they're using Sage Business Cloud Accounting, but you're still working with them, just make sure you remove your credentials and get them to type in their credentials. If you've got no relationship with them moving forward, then you just you basically uninvite them if that's Sage Business Cloud. But remove your credentials before you do that.
Uninvite. I love that. I don't know if we covered this before.
There's a technical way of doing it. There'll be an
unfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the most
like D-Link
friendly way. And an anonymous attendee has asked, what gateway ref has to be in Sage to submit the return?
So again, this depends what who's doing the submission. So if you're submitting as an agent,
Mm-hmm.
you would put in your agent credentials. If your client is doing their own submissions, they should be putting in their existing gateway credentials, because for businesses, their gateway credentials don't change. It's agents where the changes come in, and that's where you use your agent services credential if you're doing an MTD return. If you're not doing an MTD VAT return, you would use your existing agent gateway credentials if you're sending it on their behalf.
This is actually another sort of fairly similar linked question. Artemis van Rieven does all the VAT returns. This is a sort of common question, common scenario. She does all of the VAT returns, but then passes it on to the accountant who does the VAT submission, and is the one that's got the VAT agent authorization. Yeah. I've been advised by Sage to email the accountant a copy of the Sage software version 25, which is MTD compliant, and he can then submit the VAT return. Can you confirm if that will work?
So
doesn't quite make sense to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that one would probably worth exploring in a bit more detail, and more than happy for my email address to be given to have a discussion, because to me it all depends on how you're all set up in Sage. So if you're going into a business and they are using, say, for example, version 25, if the accountant's using 25, if you're going into that business or you're accessing that data for that business, getting all the VAT return prepared, the accountant can the client can connect to the accountant using Sage. We've got this thing called Sage Drive. That could be one way, or they can send them a backup as another way for the accountant to do the submission. And it's at the accountant end that they would put in their credentials to send that VAT return if they're sending it as the agent.
I'm conscious of time, but I think we've got another quite good question, which is a Verna question. And I just want us to kind of stick this one in. Neil Veitch has asked, so he's new to this whole game, and he's wondering if he has to set up just the ASA or also the existing sort of legacy system. I think, as I understand it, Verna, what you were saying is the ASA really is just the sort of, I can't remember the word you used, the kind of portal that you use for the MTD submissions. But that's not how you set yourself up as a VAT agent.
No, you would need to, and there is totally different guidance for how you set yourself up as a VAT agent, which you will be able to find on gov.uk. I mean, I'm going to say similar to Julia said, Amy, if you want to put the questions together for me, I'm quite happy to send links out if people can't find them. So what Neil would need to do is he'd need to set up as a VAT agent and then set up his ASA account, then act for his clients under MTD for VAT. He should be able to find that link on gov.uk. If he can't, happy to send that out to him.
Yeah, there's also some information on that. If you go to our website, bookkeepers.org.uk/MTD, there is a section on, if you haven't actually set yourself up as an agent yet, this is how you do it. So the ASA is simply for this MTD, making everyone do it the MTD way. Is it in the future, will there always be an ASA, or will it eventually
so ASA in theory, I guess, is going to be like, is HMRC's future. So it's where and people do get confused over which gateway account do I log into. So the easiest way to think about it is your ASA is where you act for your clients digitally. So at the moment, the only tax that is digital is VAT, and I suppose the ITSA pilot, if you're within the ITSA pilot as well. As we mandate other taxes, it will you will be also acting for the other taxes within your ASA account. And I suppose the long-term ambition for HMRC is that, or for businesses and agents, is that they will be able to see their clients' tax affairs on a quarterly kind of basis for all taxes within their ASA account. So yeah, that's certainly the future, but the ASA is purely for digital taxes at the moment.
Digital taxes as distinct from online services
Exactly,
for
yeah,
agents.
yeah.
Okay, digital taxes, it's the future.
It is.
It's here to stay. I think we do have some unanswered questions. I'm very grateful to Julia and Verna for answering so many though. And I think all the information was very clear. I hope you thought that as well. And we're going to collate all the unanswered questions. I still really do want to see some better guidance on how to link clients to the ASA and how to switch on MTD for them. So I will hunt for it and we will send it to you, and we will work together to make sure that everyone's questions are answered. So do you have anything else you want to say, Julia or Verna, as we wrap up for today?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to speak to everyone.
Yes, and the same from me. Thank you to everyone for making the time to attend today, and hope you all have a lovely weekend.
And fabulous summer holidays as well.
Yes,
Thanks,
happy
guys.
summer holidays, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Now, bye-bye.